no one is paying attention, but the United States and Venezuela appear to be preparing for war. In the dead of August heat, President Donald Trump ordered 3 naval destroyers and 4,500 troops to the Venezuelan coast. The White House claims the deployment is about countering drug cartels. However, Venezuela sees it differently. Within hours, President Nicolás Maduro responded by calling on citizens to join militias, mobilizing his army, drones, and warships, while reinforcing positions along the Colombia-Venezuela border. The optics are unmistakable. 2 governments, each deeply embattled at home, are suddenly posturing for confrontation. But here's the real question few dare to ask. Is Trump really capable of invading Venezuela? Or is this just the latest act in his theater of power politics? In this video, let's find out. Donald Trump's fixation on Venezuela has been one of the most persistent features of his foreign policy outlook. Unlike many crises that flare and fade, Venezuela has lingered in Trump's imagination as both a challenge and an opportunity. The story first began in 2017, when Venezuela was engulfed in political upheaval. Nicolás Maduro had just announced plans to rewrite the Venezuelan constitution, effectively nullifying elections and tightening his grip on power. Massive protests swept across Caracas and other cities, met with repression, mass arrests, and rising political instability. For Washington, Venezuela became a symbol of failed socialism and authoritarianism. But for Trump, it was something more tangible, a potential prize. According to insiders, Trump stunned his national security team during a closed-door meeting in August 2017, when he floated the idea of a full-scale U.S. invasion. This wasn't a trial balloon or speculative thought experiment. It was a serious proposal that alarmed his advisors. H.R. McMaster, then his national security advisor, pushed back hard, warning that such a move would alienate U.S. allies in Latin America, trigger waves of anti-American protests, and almost certainly lead to a bloody quagmire. Yet Trump's instincts were clear. The very next day, he told reporters he wouldn't rule out a military option against Venezuela. Over time, his rhetoric escalated. In 2020, during a Fox News interview, he stated bluntly, "If we ever did anything with Venezuela, I wouldn't send a small group. No, no, no. It would be called an army." The remark revealed both his fascination with overwhelming shows of force and his desire to frame Venezuela as an enemy whose defeat could prove America's dominance. Behind this bluster was a powerful motivator: oil. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven crude reserves, though its heavy crude is difficult to refine. Trump repeatedly tied Venezuela to energy politics, suggesting that the U.S. should take over its oil sector. By 2023, long after leaving office and then returning, he said, "When I left, Venezuela was about to collapse. We would have taken over it. We would have kept all that oil." For Trump, the logic was straightforward. A toppled Maduro meant access to a vast energy supply, geopolitical leverage over rivals, and a symbolic victory over socialism. This long-running obsession is crucial to understanding why Venezuela remains on Trump's radar in 2025. It explains why, even when other crises dominate headlines, he returns again and again to the idea of forceful intervention. But why now? If Trump has harbored dreams of intervention for years, why has the situation boiled over in 2025? The answer lies in a mixture of timing, political calculation, and escalation of rhetoric on both sides. In early August, Washington dramatically increased pressure on Maduro by increasing the bounty for his capture from $15 million to $50 million, accusing him of leading the so-called Cartel of the Suns. This narco-military syndicate, according to U.S. intelligence, involves senior Venezuelan officials in drug trafficking operations. For Trump, framing Maduro as a drug kingpin gave the escalation a law and order mask, similar to how past presidents justified interventions in Panama or the Caribbean. Maduro, unsurprisingly, did not take the bait quietly. In a televised address, he mocked the U.S. and dared Trump to "come arrest me." His words were not just bravado. They were aimed at rallying domestic support by portraying Venezuela as a victim of imperialist bullying. Only days later, 3 U.S. Navy destroyers sailed into the Caribbean, accompanied by 4,500 troops, including 2,200 Marines. Officially, the deployment was about countering drug cartels, but the size and composition of the force raised eyebrows. Caracas immediately interpreted it as preparation for something far more aggressive. The Venezuelan response was swift. Maduro ordered 15,000 troops to reinforce the Colombia side. Venezuela border mobilized militias and deployed drones along with naval patrols. His government opened talks with Colombia's defense ministry, signaling that Caracas was preparing for regional escalation. At the same time, he urged ordinary citizens to enlist in local defense militias, portraying the standoff as a national struggle for survival. The mood shifted overnight from rhetoric to confrontation. In Washington, Trump's allies praised the deployment as a decisive step toward confronting a narco-dictator. In Caracas, state television broadcast images of troops drilling, warships patrolling, and citizens pledging loyalty to the Republic. What had been a simmering tension suddenly looked like the prelude to conflict. However, the question arises: could Trump actually invade Venezuela? At first glance, the numbers don't add up. The U.S. has deployed 4,500 troops, certainly a significant presence, but nowhere near the level required for a full-scale invasion of a nation of 30 million people. Venezuela is not Grenada in 1983 or Panama in 1989. Those interventions involved relatively small populations and were conducted under circumstances where the U.S. already had forces in place. Grenada, with just 100,000 people, required 7,000 U.S. troops. Panama, with 2 million people, saw an invasion force of 30,000. By contrast, Venezuela is 15 times larger than Panama in population, with far more challenging geography. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, and current affairs impacting your lives. Military analysts, including the Council on Foreign Relations, have estimated that at least 100,000 U.S. troops would be needed to seize and hold Venezuela, even under favorable conditions. And even then, the risks would be immense. The terrain includes dense jungles, mountains, and sprawling urban areas, ideal for guerrilla resistance. Loyalist militias, many armed and trained, could wage asymmetric warfare for years. Civilian casualties would be high, and the humanitarian crisis would deepen. Furthermore, unlike past interventions, the U.S. would not enjoy a free hand. Russia has sold arms to Venezuela for years and maintains close military ties. China has provided loans and oil investment. Both powers would likely respond, at least indirectly, to any U.S. attempt at regime change. In other words, an invasion of Venezuela could morph into a flashpoint in the broader U.S.-China-Russia rivalry. So while the 4,500 troops now in the Caribbean might look imposing on television, they are not an invasion force. They are a signal. Trump is flexing muscles, testing Maduro's resolve, and sending a message to his domestic audience that he is tough on dictators. However, to truly understand the 2025 escalation, we have to look beyond the Caribbean waters and into the domestic struggles of both leaders. For Trump, the decision to deploy destroyers and troops is not just about Venezuela. It's about Washington. He faces mounting crises at home, legal investigations circling his administration, an economy rattled by tariffs and trade wars, and growing unrest across U.S. cities. In such a climate, Foreign saber-rattling provides a convenient distraction. A military buildup abroad allows him to appear strong, decisive, and unyielding, qualities he wants to showcase to his political base. Moreover, Latin America has long been a stage for U.S. presidents to demonstrate toughness. From Reagan's Grenada operation to Bush's Panama invasion, interventions in the hemisphere have often been framed as quick, decisive wins. Trump, steeped in nostalgia for past strongman moments, likely sees Venezuela through that lens, even if the reality is far more complex. In Caracas, Maduro faces his own storm. Venezuela's economy remains in freefall, battered by hyperinflation, collapsing oil revenues, and crippling U.S. sanctions. Nearly 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country over the past decade, creating one of the largest refugee crises in the world. For Maduro, Trump's threats are politically useful. By casting the U.S. as an imperialist aggressor, he shifts blame for Venezuela's hardships outward. He rallies nationalism, paints himself as the defender of sovereignty, and tightens control by mobilizing militias. The irony is that both Trump and Maduro, despite their antagonism, need each other. Trump needs Maduro as a foil to prove his toughness. Maduro needs Trump as a villain to justify his grip on power. Both men gain politically from the shadow of war. Now, what happens if shots are fired? Well, the greatest risk lies not in a deliberate invasion, but in accidental escalation. History is littered with conflicts that began through miscalculation. In the tense waters of the Caribbean, a single incident could light the fuse. Imagine a Venezuelan drone mistakenly targeting a U.S. vessel, or a militia patrol opening fire on American troops conducting an anti-drug raid, or even a clash along the Colombia-Venezuela border spiraling out of control. Any of these could force Trump to retaliate, Maduro to respond, and the conflict to spiral rapidly beyond anyone's intent. The consequences would be severe. Even limited U.S. airstrikes could destabilize the Venezuelan government, triggering mass unrest or regional spillover. Oil markets would react instantly, with prices spiking as investors feared disruption in the world's largest reserves. Colombia, already tense, could be dragged in. Russia and China might step up military or financial support for Caracas. The Caribbean could suddenly become the front line of a global rivalry. Unlike Grenada or Panama, this is not a theater where the U.S. enjoys overwhelming dominance. The world of 2025 is multipolar, with power more diffused and adversaries more willing to challenge U.S. moves. Venezuela could easily become another proxy war, dragging Washington deeper into conflict than Trump ever intended. So, can Trump actually invade Venezuela? The evidence suggests not, at least not with the forces he has currently deployed, and not without catastrophic risks. The logistical requirements are immense, the regional and global consequences unpredictable, and the political costs potentially devastating. But can he pretend he might invade? Absolutely, and in many ways, that may be the entire point. For Trump, the spectacle of deployment, the destroyers off the coast, the Marines on standby, the fiery speeches, achieves his political goals without the need to fire a shot. For Maduro, the same spectacle allows him to portray Venezuela as the last fortress standing against U.S. imperialism, shoring up his nationalist credentials. The tragedy is that the people of Venezuela are once again caught in the middle. Already suffering under sanctions, shortages, and authoritarian rule, they now face the anxiety of looming war. Each new deployment, each new speech, each new maneuver in the Caribbean deepens their uncertainty. What do you think? Should cartels be fought using warships and thousands of troops? Do you feel Trump is really testing the water to see whether he can really invade Venezuela by first sending a few warships? In the comment section below, share your thoughts on whether Trump wants to use Venezuela as an enemy and invade it to garner support at home. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, changing world order, and current affairs. Things you need to stay informed. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.